Hello, my name is Eric Scholle. This is the defense of my original historical research project for the master's program at Arizona State University. In this video, I will give an overview of the project, discuss my methodology and source material, the significance of my research, and the overall conclusions that I reached. First, an overview of the project. The original historical question that I answered was, to what extent was the existence of a matrilineal monarchy and female monarchs in the Travancore Kingdom the main cause for the positive social status of 19th century women in Southwest India? This essay was originally written for the Modern Monarchy seminar with Dr. Tobias Harper. Dr. Harper encouraged us to choose a topic with an open-ended question that we did not necessarily know the answer to. By choosing a topic where a conclusion was not already fully formed, we would allow the source material to shape our arguments and frame our research in a way that would yield more interesting results. I began my search for a topic by researching monarchical governments in the state of Kerala in India, because this is where my wife's family is originally from, and I have recently visited the region. The area is also a crossroads of historical developments with ties to early Christian missionary movements, the global spice trade, and the imperial rule of Great Britain in India. I was drawn to the kingdom of Travancore, which existed in what is today known as Kerala. The kingdom traces its roots back to the 3rd century BCE, but its modern history begins in the early 18th century. One of the interesting aspects of the Travancore royal family was that they followed a matrilineal line of succession, meaning royal succession went from the king to the younger brother, then to the eldest son of the king's sister. If adoption was needed for the continuity of the royal family, a girl was adopted and her son became the new heir. This system led to the regency and rule of female monarchs over the Travancore kingdom. The existence of female monarchs in 18th and 19th century India struck me as unique. Another unique aspect of the modern state of Kerala is the high levels of educational attainment for all their citizens and the especially high rate of educational attainment for women in the region. The existence of these two variables led me to attempt to discover if there is a direct correlation between the existence of the matrilineal monarchy and the high levels of female educational attainment within the region. My initial thoughts were that the existence of powerful female figures in the governance structure of the region would have led to a greater emphasis of women's rights and female education in Travancore. However, through my research, I did not discover a direct correlation between these two variables. Instead, what I discovered was long-lasting cultural tendencies towards female education in the region, as well as the significant involvement of the British Imperial Administration and British Christian missionary societies in the education of women and other members of traditionally marginalized segments of society. These variables were the driving force behind the high levels of educational attainment in the region instead of the existence of female monarchs, which in reality did not have significant power over the Travancore kingdom. My research led me to the expansive 19th century histories of the region completed by Shunguni Menon, Samuel Matir, and Nagam Aya. These authors detailed nearly every aspect of life in the Travancore kingdom and provided important insight into the social and political dynamics surrounding female educational attainment in South India. The work of Aya, a native from Travancore who was appointed by the British to help administer the region, was especially influential as he published an exhaustive history of Travancore and was the leader of multiple census operations, which produced reports including his observations and insights regarding the status of women in Travancore. The other repository of information that proved to be especially useful was the Church Missionary Society Periodicals database, which was recommended by Dr. Harper and available through the Arizona State University Library. This database houses the newsletters produced by the numerous British missionary groups that sent Christian devotees to Africa, Asia, and South America during the 19th and 20th centuries to educate and convert local populations. These periodicals provided fascinating insight into the British view of the Indian population, as well as the political machinations surrounding missionary work. Ultimately, after consultation with these sources, my quest to find a link between the matrilineal monarchy of Travancore and the status of female educational attainment in the region was unsuccessful. However, even though my original thesis was not proven, my research brought me down an alternative path which illuminated the ways in which British imperial administrators usurped power from Travancore leaders and ushered Christian missionary workers into the region. The subsequent establishment of Christian missionary schools in the region created the conditions which led to the educational progressivism in the state of Kerala. A key example of this is represented in the relationship between the Queen Regent of Travancore from 1811 to 1814, named Lakshmi Bai, and the British administrative resident for the region named Colonel John Munro. When I first began researching the Travancore royal family, I found Lakshmi Bai to hold a special place in many of the histories written about the kingdom. Upon reaching the throne in 1811 after the death of her uncle, Lakshmi Bai's reign is regarded glowingly in historical chronicles. Her good qualities are too numerous to be described, with the principal characteristics being firmness of mind and the ability to resist idle counselors, flatterers, and sycophants. The Travancore State Manual describes how her ascension to the throne marked the end of the days of darkness and disorder, and the beginning of an era of peace and prosperity. Through a reign of only 3 years, Bai garnered significant fame and accolades in the eyes of historians. However, upon further inspection, the accomplishments of Bai are not as impressive as the historians make them seem. The most significant action taken by Lakshmi Bai appears to be the ceding of power to the British resident, Colonel John Munro, and the British East India Company. The elimination of corruption and governmental reforms in Travancore during the time period of Bai's reign were the work of Colonel Munro, acting as the chief governing officer of Travancore in Bai's stead. Munro enacted many governmental reforms, reducing the overall debt of the kingdom while also eliminating unnecessary taxes. Munro also sought favorable terms for Christian missionary groups to enter into Travancore Kingdom. Being of Protestant and Scottish descent, Munro opened the doors for Christians to set up schools and churches in Travancore. Munro's relationship with Christian missionary groups would ultimately have the most significant impact on the educational attainment of people in the Travancore Kingdom. The British missionary societies focused particular attention on the Travancore Kingdom because of the pre-existence of a branch of Christianity within the region, whose followers are known as Syrian Christians. This branch of Christianity traces its heritage in southwest India to the 1st century CE. Munro and the missionary groups felt that the population of Travancore would be more accepting of Christian teachings since there was a tradition of Christianity within the region, especially compared with other areas of India. The missionary society set up schools in Travancore, educating all members and classes of society. Many of the missionary schools focus on educating women and lower caste Indian natives who are often left out of traditional schools in India. This focus on traditionally marginalized members of society led to a significant overall rise in rates of literacy and education. The actions of the missionary groups also are credited with raising the level of the traditional government schools, because a sense of competition developed between the two entities. The ensuing emphasis on the education of all members of society was the most significant determinant of the high level of educational attainment for women in the Kingdom of Travancore during the 19th century and into modern times. A secondary aspect of the culture of Travancore that is referenced as a cause of the high level of female educational attainment in the region is the lack of incursion by Muslim empires into the area during the 17th and 18th centuries. The social standards of Islamic society in India during that era often saw the limitation of education of women. Multiple historians pointed to the fact that since the Muslim empires were never able to push south into the Kingdom of Travancore, those restrictions were never enacted within the region. Interestingly, the British also played a role in this historic development, as it was a treaty signed in 1788 between the British East India Company and the Travancore government that produced the military alliance that kept the Muslim Sultan Tipu from conquering Travancore. This treaty is also seen as the beginning of the integration of British imperial control into the Travancore local government structure. This project could be expanded upon by further analysis of educational systems in other parts of India and Asia during the 19th century, as well as further exploration of 20th century educational trends in Kerala as a way to connect the developments of the 18th and 19th century to today's world. Despite these relative limitations, I found the conclusions reached in this project to be valuable to the overall understanding of educational attainment in Southwest India. The overall conclusion of this essay is that the matrilineal monarchy system did not produce the beneficial educational status of women in Travancore. This positive status is more likely due to a number of other factors. First, there was a track record of previously existing social mores regarding female education in South India. Second, the lack of Muslim incursion into the Travancore region limited the implementation of subservient rules for women, which was common in Muslim kingdoms in India during the medieval era. Lastly, British missionary efforts established schooling for students, which targeted the most marginalized segments of the population, including women, in turn producing long-term positive effects on the level of female educational attainment within the Travancore region.